Greetings everyone, I'm Detective STARBORN, and I'm glad to see you on my YouTube channel. Please be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on new and interesting videos. Thank you, and enjoy watching. A girl went to her room and then vanished without a trace. Police began searching, deploying drones, helicopters, and numerous volunteers. Over several days, they were unable to find any traces of the missing girl, despite all their efforts. Only on the third day of the extensive search did new details emerge in this case, which instantly made it one of the most talked about topics in the country, as no one expected such a turn of events. Athena Strand was born on May 25, 2015, in the small American city of Duncan, Oklahoma. Soon after, her parents divorced, and her father moved to Texas, while Athena remained living with her mother. Her father maintained constant contact with his daughter and visited her whenever possible. Sometimes her mom would also bring Athena to visit him. Despite the divorce, they got along well, and the woman wanted her daughter to spend enough time with her dad. Later, Athena's mother remarried, and her father got married too. The girl gained two younger sisters, with whom she was very close and tried to spend as much time as possible. Athena was a typical happy child, always delighting those around her with her positive attitude, loved to play and spend as much time as possible outdoors. At the end of 2022, when she was 7, she temporarily moved to her father's place in Texas. The girl was supposed to live with him until the New Year's holiday, after which she would return to her mom in Oklahoma. During this time, Athena attended the local elementary school. The house where her father lived was in a remote rural area, surrounded by woods and fields. The girl enjoyed spending time in nature with her dad, and she also got along well with his new wife, Elizabeth. On November 30th, the girl returned from school on the bus as usual at around 4:15 in the afternoon. Her father and grandfather were hunting at the time, and Athena was at home with Elizabeth. That evening, the girl was in a bad mood, which led to an argument with the woman. Eventually, Athena got upset and went to her room, while Elizabeth went to the kitchen to prepare her dinner. About 20 minutes later, she went to the girl's room to call her for dinner, but Athena wasn't there. Elizabeth searched the entire house for her and looked in the yard, but the girl was nowhere to be found. After this, the woman called her husband's relatives, who lived just a few hundred meters away. Sometimes Athena would visit them, but they said they hadn't seen her. Next, Elizabeth called her husband and told him what happened. He told her to contact the police immediately and headed straight home. The woman called 911 at approximately 6:40, and officers arrived at her house 14 minutes later. Elizabeth explained the situation to them and shared her version of events. In her opinion, Athena might have run away from home because of their argument. However, the girl's relatives strongly doubted this. First, Athena was only 7 and had never gone far from home before. Second, it was already evening, and the girl was afraid of the dark. Initially, the police were suspicious of Elizabeth. This was mainly because the woman only contacted the police 40 minutes after discovering the child was missing. But after hearing her account of how she searched for the girl throughout the house and called relatives, they concluded she was most likely telling the truth. The officers immediately began searching the area. Despite it being dark outside, they began combing the woods and fields within a radius of several miles from the house. According to their main theory, Athena might have left the house and gotten lost in the dark, so the police focused all their efforts on covering this area. They also considered the possibility of kidnapping, but they couldn't find any leads in this direction. There were no signs of forced entry in the house. Elizabeth hadn't heard any noise or screams, and none of the neighbors had seen anything suspicious that evening. The girl's relatives helped the police in their search, along with other concerned residents of the city. Athena's mom left for there as soon as she learned about her daughter's disappearance. The search continued until almost 5 in the morning, but they still couldn't find any traces of Athena. The situation was complicated by the fact that the area around the house was quite difficult to access, especially during nighttime. By 7 in the morning, the police resumed their search, deploying even more officers. Furthermore, When news of the girl's disappearance spread throughout the area, hundreds of volunteers joined the search. Some of them surveyed the area on horseback and ATVs, while the police used drones and helicopters with thermal imaging cameras. Unfortunately, they were unable to find Athena throughout this day as well. The police were concerned for her life since it was already early winter. Despite Texas being a southern state, the temperature during these days dropped to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Given that the girl was wearing light clothing, it would have been very difficult for her to endure such weather. On the third day, the search continued, and the police expanded their zone to 10 miles around the house. They also brought in colleagues who looked for possible criminal elements in the case. Although initially there was no evidence of kidnapping, the police increasingly doubted that Athena had left home of her own will. Over these days, they had combed several miles in all directions and still hadn't found the girl. The idea that she could have walked such a distance on her own without encountering any populated area seemed highly doubtful. Investigators tried to identify everyone who had been near Athena's house that evening. This task was very difficult since the residence was surrounded by trees and several dozen meters from the main road. Additionally, there were no surveillance cameras in the area. Nevertheless, they quickly managed to get their first lead. It turned out that a courier service had delivered a package to the girl's house that same evening. Investigators immediately contacted FedEx, who told them that deliveries to that address were handled by a third-party contractor. They contacted the organization that handled package delivery, and they determined which van had visited Athena's house that evening. Fortunately for the police, each such vehicle was equipped with a surveillance camera, and they immediately requested the video footage from November 30th. When they fast-forwarded to the time when the van approached the house, investigators saw very disturbing footage. It showed the driver dragging a girl who looked like Athena into the vehicle. They immediately obtained the driver's identity from the company. It was 31-year-old Tanner Horner, and the police went to his address. Soon, the man was arrested on suspicion of kidnapping and brought in for questioning. As soon as investigators told him they had video footage from the camera, Horner began talking. He said that he had indeed delivered a package to Athena's house that evening. When the man was backing up in his van, he felt an impact and got out to see what it was. Horner saw a girl on the ground and realized he had accidentally hit her with his vehicle. Upon getting closer, the man noticed that she hadn't suffered any serious injuries. The girl was conscious, wasn't crying, and even spoke to him. According to Horner, she said she would tell her father about what happened, and the man panicked. After this, he led the girl into the van, thinking about how to resolve this problem. She continued talking to him and said her name was Athena. Horner didn't know what to do with the whole situation. He understood that if the girl told adults about this incident, he could face legal problems. And then he told investigators something that, to put it mildly, left them bewildered. According to Horner, he couldn't think of anything better than to kill her. The man said he first tried to break her neck, but he couldn't do it. Then he strangled the victim, took her body to a river near the neighboring town, and dropped it in the water. Of course, such a version of events raised big questions for the police, but the suspect indicated the exact place where he had left Athena. Investigators immediately went there and indeed found her body. News of the girl's murder shocked not only her relatives, but thousands of people across the country. By that time, all leading media outlets were covering this case, and people were shocked by such cruelty. After the body was discovered, Horner was charged with kidnapping and murder. While waiting for the medical examiner's report, detectives began studying the perpetrator's background under a microscope, trying to better understand his motives. The version of events that Horner told them seemed completely implausible. According to him, he slightly bumped the girl with the van, not causing her any serious injuries. However, the man was so scared that he immediately decided to kill her. Considering that for hitting a child without causing injuries, his maximum punishment might have been just termination from his job, Horner's account seemed very strange. Police established that the man was engaged and had a child born a year before these events. Besides delivering packages, he sometimes worked part-time for Uber. Horner also played music and was in a band that performed at various cafes in the neighboring city of Fort Worth. On social media, he posted numerous photos with his child, footage from musical performances, and other things that in no way gave the impression that Horner was a real monster. He had no problems with the law before his arrest, and throughout his entire biography, the police couldn't find any hints that this person was a violent killer. Just 2 months before Athena's death, the man was posting photos where he was spending time with his son and his grandparents. The wait for the medical examiner's report, which was supposed to shed light on what really happened, dragged on for several weeks. Meanwhile, Athena's parents filed a lawsuit against FedEx and the contractor company, accusing them of allowing Horner to work. They demanded higher standards for employee screening and selection to prevent similar crimes in the future. Soon, one fact came to light that made this whole story even sadder. It turned out that the package Horner was delivering that evening was a Christmas present for Athena. Her parents had ordered her a Barbie doll that she had wanted for a long time. When the medical examiner's findings became public, even more questions arose in this case. According to the document, the victim died within the first hour after the kidnapping. Her body showed injuries of varying severity, and the cause of death was strangulation. However, the detectives' main theory wasn't confirmed. They thought Horner had noticed the girl near the house and decided to kidnap her to assault her. But medical examiners found no signs of sexual assault. This puzzled the police, as such a motive had seemed most obvious. None of them was sure that events really unfolded according to the killer's own account, since there was no logic to it. Then investigators supposed that the perpetrator had initially planned to assault the girl, but something went wrong. According to the detectives, after the argument with her dad's wife, Athena went outside and was in the yard. At the same time, Horner drove up to the house to deliver the package and noticed the girl. According to the investigator's version, he saw this as an opportunity to act on his perverted fantasies. Athena was alone near the house, which was surrounded by trees, completely isolated from prying eyes. Horner could have either tricked the girl into the van or deliberately hit her with it to get her into the vehicle without resistance. What happened next is unclear. There are two main versions that seem most logical. Horner might have planned to take the girl farther from home and carry out what he had in mind there. But she either started screaming or tried to escape. Afraid of being caught, the man killed her, then took the body to the river. According to the second version, Horner might have committed certain indecent acts against the victim that didn't involve direct contact. In such a case, medical examiners wouldn't have been able to establish the fact of sexual assault. Soon detectives had indirect and quite unexpected confirmation that this crime could indeed have had a sexual motive. Horner had no problems with the law before this murder, which is quite rare. In most cases, people who are capable of deliberately taking someone's life start with much less serious crimes. For many weeks, detectives thoroughly studied Horner's biography. They spoke with his relatives, friends, and acquaintances, trying to find any hints that the man might have been involved in other crimes. And eventually, they had a breakthrough. Police managed to find several people who said they had suffered from Horner's actions when they were children. Police didn't reveal their identities in the interests of the investigation, nor all the details of what happened. It is only known that one of the victims accused the man of assaulting her 9 years ago. Additionally, Horner was charged with 3 more episodes related to assault on minors in 2013. At present, it's unknown whether this refers to one child or 3 different victims. But that's not all. It turned out that one of Horner's victims had been publicly saying for many years that the man had assaulted her when she was 16. The girl had been writing about this on her social media for years, trying to convey to everyone the fact that Horner was a dangerous criminal. For some reason, the man wasn't punished for what he had done and wasn't even considered a suspect. The girl who accused him of this crime wrote that throughout all these years, simply no one believed her. However, after Horner killed Athena, these accusations were given much more attention. They revealed the true nature of this person and his possible motives. Now, Horner will also be tried for these 4 episodes, but separately from the trial for Athena's murder. I want to note one more point, which by itself doesn't seem significant, but in the context of all Horner's crimes, gives additional insight into his true face. After his identity became known to the general public, internet users discovered the killer's TikTok account. There were only a few videos, of which only the last one, recorded several weeks before the murder, was of interest. In this video, Horner recorded his reaction to a clip where someone caught a bug in a glass, then slowly poisoned it with spray. Looking at the dying bug, Horner's face took on a rather eerie expression, as if he genuinely enjoyed the process of killing. If the man was indeed a sadist who experienced genuine pleasure at the sight of someone's death, his version of Athena's murder is once again called into question. Horner stated that the only reason he killed her was fear of being punished for a much lesser crime. But if we assume that he had such sadistic tendencies, his story seems even more absurd. During preparations for the trial, authorities announced they would seek the death penalty. Horner himself hired a lawyer who advised him to withdraw his confession and declare his innocence. But this is unlikely to help the man avoid punishment. Given that the police have video footage from the van, as well as Horner's testimony about the exact location of the body, his guilt is more than obvious. Moreover, after the trial begins, additional evidence may be disclosed, the existence of which is currently unknown. Most likely, they found Athena's DNA traces in the van, and genetic material from the killer could well have been collected from her clothing and body. We can only follow the course of the trial and wait to see what other details become known to the public. Thank you for watching this video, and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I look forward to your comments on this situation. That was Detective STARBORN. See you soon.